Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for everyone here in the room, and thanks for everyone watching. Certainly, members of the public, we much appreciate that you're able to watch our meeting. I call to order the February 9, 2023 meeting of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. I am a fourth substitute, being vice chair for Chair Ram. And this thing, I don't even know what this is. Don't keep it away from me. In any event, first item is the roll call.
Thank you, Vice Chair Snyder. Supervisor Alcorn. Here. Chair Wheeler.
Here.
Board Member Crystal.
Here.
Mayor Wilson. Here. Mayor Davis Younger. Mayor Rischel.
Here.
Mayor Reed.
Here.
Senator Boysko.
Here.
Supervisor Harity. Mr. Bedell.
Here.
Ms. Hines.
Here.
Mr. Cole. Here. Mayor Wood.
Here.
Mr. Lynch.
Here.
And Mr. Broll.
Here.
Great.
Vice Chair Snyder, we do have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And thanks for everyone participating virtually as well. Much appreciate your time. I know it's a busy time for everyone, especially those in Richmond. So thank you so much. First item on the agenda is approval of January 12, 2023 meeting summary minutes. Any questions or comments? Okay, entertain a motion. Thank you. Motion's been made, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Yes, sir. Got it. Thank you. Okay, so we go into a couple of very important presentations, and I'll turn it over to our CEO, Monica Bachman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have Jacob Bowles with us this evening from JBG Smith, speaking specifically to the economic impacts of the authority's investments in National Landing. We have well over $250 million invested in National Landing. I will ask that if you have any project-specific questions, please direct them to the project sponsors. VRE is one of the project sponsors. Of course, they're not here this evening, so we can take any questions you have about the VRE Crystal City Station platform. We can take that back to VRE. Thank you.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Jacob Bowles. I'm here on behalf of JBG Smith and the National Landing Business Improvement District to share our latest report, Mobility Next, and describe how the over $250 million of MBTA funded projects are helping to reshape National Landing while promoting economic growth. I believe I have a slide.
Yes, I will. be doing that.
Keep going in the meantime. As a quick reminder, JBG is a Maryland-based real estate investment trust focused exclusively on transit-oriented development within the DC region, including National Landing, where we partner with Amazon on their second headquarters and Virginia Tech on their innovation campus. Given our long-term interest in National Landing, we take an active role alongside the Business Improvement District in promoting multimodal transportation, which is crucial to the broader transformation of our neighborhood. Next slide, please. Actually, that's it.
Sorry.
Thanks to decades of strategic investment by the MBTA, Arlington County, Commonwealth, and others, National Landing is already one of the best connected parts of our region, as we describe in the report, which we have copies of if anyone's interested. With more than $4 billion of additional projects planned or underway in National Landing, we are poised to become America's best connected downtown. By that, we mean when these projects are complete in 2030, no other downtown in the country will have as many modes of transportation going to as many places within its region than National Landing. Today, I want to highlight a few of those projects to show the positive impact of MBTA's investment. Next slide, please. The first of those is the Potomac Yard Pentagon City Transitway, which is a bus rapid transit facility complete with dedicated lanes and stations. The extension, which is one of 5 projects included in the agreement between Amazon and Virginia for their second headquarters, is being funded in part by the MBTA and broke ground in 2022. Some of you were there. When complete, it will provide fast, frequent service between major destinations within National Landing. The map on the left is a little hard to see, but it will connect the Virginia Tech campus with Amazon's second headquarters by way of Crystal City. Next slide, please. The second project is the Crystal City East Metro entrance. This is another project that was included in the Amazon deal and is being funded in part by MBTA funds. The project is important because it will help expand the reach of the existing Crystal City station, effectively moving the station 5 minutes closer to thousands of employees, residents, and visitors who travel to and from Crystal Drive every day. It will also help promote a more direct link between Metro and Virginia Railway Express. Next slide. The next project is Route 1. It was also part of the agreement with Amazon, though it is not currently funded by MBTA. Still, given its scale and impact on the neighborhood, I thought it warranted mentioning here. In 2021, VDOT finalized their recommendation to replace the existing highway with an at-grade urban boulevard. The goal is to better link Crystal City and Pentagon City by shrinking the width of the right-of-way and making it more pedestrian-friendly. In doing so, the project is also expected to free up about 5 acres that are today used for on and off ramps, but in the future, which can be used for additional development and public space. Next slide, thank you. Speaking of transformative projects, we are very excited about CC to DCA, the planned pedestrian bridge between Crystal City and National Airport. This project is also funded by the MBTA and was included in the Amazon agreement. It has been progressing steadily since then. Indeed, Arlington expects to receive full federal approval for the project this summer, which is a tremendous accomplishment for such a unique and complicated project. And I know our friends at VDOT have been helpful to them in that regard, lending their expertise, so we appreciate that as well. When complete, it will make National Landing the only downtown that we're aware of that's within walking distance of an international airport. The next project is VRE's Crystal City Station. Another exciting project that will help take advantage of Virginia's historic Transforming Rail in Virginia initiative. The new station, which will effectively double capacity compared to the current station, will support bi-directional VRE service that is planned with the Transforming Rail in Virginia initiative. It will also support Amtrak service, which is expected to increase by nearly 75% when Long Bridge is complete. Finally, the expanded capacity will allow Maryland MARC commuter trains to serve the station for the first time. Next slide. While each of these projects is exciting on its own, together they're truly transformational. Some of you may recall I came to the authority in 2020 to speak about the combination of VRE's Crystal City Station and CC to DCA. And as you see on the two images here, they really will ultimately function as one project. We believe that when complete, this will represent the nation's premier air-to-rail hub and will open up new possibilities for travelers across the Commonwealth and beyond. The diagram on the right speaks to the level of coordination needed to successfully integrate these two projects, and we understand that Arlington and VRE are hard at work in determining the best path forward for the combined projects. So why are these projects so important? Well, for one thing, they leverage existing networks to expand connectivity within the region. I mentioned the added service that the new VRE Crystal City Station will accommodate. The graphic on the left shows in orange all the new places within our region that will be within a 1-hour transit commute of National Landing when Maryland MARC trains are able to run through. That area contains about 765,000 people. For employers like Amazon and Virginia Tech, whose success depends on attracting the best and brightest from across the region, that's a huge advantage. The map on the right shows the possibilities beyond the region open that are unlocked by Amtrak service. Residents from the Commonwealth will be able to ride the train to a flight at DCA, while employees in National Landing can attend a meeting in Richmond or Philadelphia and still be home for dinner. Next slide. If you've been to National Landing lately, you've seen all of the development activity that these transportation investments are supporting. That includes not just the new office space for Amazon, but thousands of new residential units, and Virginia Tech's billion-dollar innovation campus. The Business Improvement District calculates that all of this adds up to more than $26 billion of economic output and generates nearly a quarter of Arlington's annual tax revenue. This would not be possible but for the robust and growing multimodal network, which allows all of this new development to occur with some of the lowest parking rates in the country. Which leads me to perhaps the most important lesson for National Landing, and certainly for NVTA and your focus on reducing congestion. Since 2000, National Landing has grown by 28%, while average weekday traffic has gone down by 18%. We saw the same trend in the Roslyn-Boston corridor a generation earlier. As hard as it can be to believe, it's clear that dense transit-oriented development can and does reduce traffic. I hope that this gives you all an overview of the role that NVTA's investments are playing to help support growth in National Landing. We appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Gerald, I appreciate that very much, the perspective of the outcomes in terms of economic development. And we are very excited about these projects in Arlington County as well. And I'm happy to offer, along with my staff, if anybody's interested in getting into the details of any of those follow-up opportunities too. So thank you to KBG for making that linkage to the value to the Commonwealth and the region.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to note, last month we gave the economic impacts of both the 70 and 30% revenue, but this month we wanted to show what that revenue and what these investments meant for a particular area. So you will be seeing more of that as we move throughout this year on what these investments mean in areas throughout Northern Virginia, throughout the region.
Thanks. Any other questions?
No, I was looking at the just the increase in population numbers, and I was like, how does that increase your population? You projected 8,000 residential units?
Yeah, I think it's something like 25. We're over the next 10 years. If I'm not mistaken, we're expecting another 25,000 residents.
We also see a lot of internal movement within Arlington. So a given development doesn't necessarily increase our population by the same number of units.
You have to remember there were very few residential units at all in Crystal City, so everything's a plus side.
I'm sure if our chair were here, she would remind us all that love is in fact the fastest way.
Come Falls Church. Okay, anything else? Thanks for that very impressive presentation. I wish you well as you move forward. Thanks. Next item.
So, Mr. Chair, before we get to the Nova Gateway dashboard update, I did want to note that we pulled the analysis of multimodal capacity expansion because we found an error, and I want to make sure that that error is corrected, and I didn't want staff to rush the correction of the error to continue with the presentation this evening. So that will be rescheduled for a later date.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the authority. I'd like to give you an update on the Nova Gateway dashboard. We've given you updates in the past in September of 2020 and in December of 2021. They were both live demos. You've just got me tonight with a PowerPoint presentation, but we do hope nonetheless that this will be a refresher for those members who've seen this before, and for new members, hopefully we'll be able to give you some introductory information about what this dashboard is all about. Since we last gave the demo, we haven't updated the dashboard very much. We have a minor update, which I'll mention as I go through. We have, however, had a major update in the data that's in the dashboard since in July of last year, you adopted your fiscal 2022 to 2027 six-year program, and all of those projects have been added to the database, so it's completely up to date. I would say for anyone who wants to dive deeper into this and would like us to hold your hands through it, we'd be more than happy to schedule live demos with you. at a later time. So the original concept behind this, you see the name PIMMS there. We've probably come across that in previous meetings, which stands for Program Information Management and Monitoring System, sometimes also known as an alcoholic liqueur. That wasn't my inspiration.
You went back from the record.
Jeff would have shown up. So our version of PIMMS, the original concept was to eliminate paper-based systems. It's hard to believe now, but you know, your staff used to have to apply with Word documents emailed to us, and PIMMS has kind of brought us into the 21st century. It's also an integrated system that serves multiple MBTA functions, not just for my transportation planning and programming team, but also for Mr. Longby's finance team as well. And I think our communications team also find it quite useful as well. But that little graphic there, what we refer to as system architecture, it's a bit like a digital version of the architecture you'd see for a building. It's all about function and form and so on. And it's divided into two parts. The larger part with all the blue and white boxes and the blue arrows is all password protected. Your staff have access to it. But that's kind of like the behind the scenes part of it. The public facing part of it in red is what we've come to call the Nova Gateway dashboard. We called it that because we thought that was a bit more snappy than Program Information Management and Monitoring System, and to avoid any legal challenges from the maker of previously mentioned alcoholic drink. So this is how PIMMS is structured. So I'm mostly going to be talking about the dashboard shown at the bottom of this graphic. But the password protected area shows some of the, at a high level, the processes and data that enables that centralized PIMMS database, which feeds the dashboard. When we refer to program, we're really referring to like the 6-year programs and the funding programs that preceded the 6-year programs. So in total, we have 6 funding programs now. All the data associated with those is built into this database, and we refer to this as real time. It's not quite real time in the sense of a real time traffic congestion map or anything like that, but it is real time. Every time we pay an invoice, this system gets automatically updated and the dashboard gets updated as well. So in that sense, it is truly real time for us. At the top, you see the SYP or 6-year program application portal. This is where it started. This is where in the not too distant future, your staff will be entering funding requests for the upcoming fiscal year 2024 to 2029 6-year program. And to the left and the right of the database, you see the SPA module. SPA means Standard Project Agreement, which is a legal agreement that has to be approved here before it can be executed. And that basically enables the projects that you've approved for funding to get going and to bill us. On the right-hand side, the project module is where we kind of do all the project status monitoring and so on. And we generate various financial and status reports that are all internal to PIMMS, but we kind of skim the really interesting stuff off and present it in the dashboard. So we really are trying to achieve or maximize transparency of what you're doing with your regional revenues, so that this is available in an easy to use format. So if we go to the next few slides, it's just some navigation hints. You see kind of up towards the top right-hand side, there's a part of the screen there, thank you, which is circled in white. This is our homepage. If you go to Nova Gateway on our homepage, hover over that, there'll be a menu that appears, which you can't read, I know, but one says real-time NBTA transportation updates. The one below that says project management system, staff login only. You can click on that. You won't be able to get anywhere without a password, though. But the one above it takes you to the dashboard, which is on the next screen. At least this is the kind of the welcome page for the dashboard. And again, you just have to, it's structured like this because there are going to be things that are added to this in the future. They're not there now. So the only thing you can do is click Explore Now. And when you click Explore Now, you come to the home page of the dashboard, which is shown here. So what you see is a map which is zoomable, and again, at this level of detail, you probably can't see it, but there are various pins on that map, which when you kind of zoom down into deeper layers of the map, kind of break out into individual projects. You can only actually see one individual project on its own up towards the kind of the middle left-hand side of that, which is our project in Hillsborough on Route 9. Each icon for each project includes a symbol that represents the mode of that project. So you can look through this pretty quickly and visually see where projects are distributed by mode. And you can click on those modal items and you'll drill down into more information about those individual projects. On the right-hand side, or to the right of the map, you see various things there. The 122 and the $3.1 billion, that's updated after each 6-year program adoption, and that represents the total funding and the total number of projects you funded to date. The circle below it, multicolor circle, indicates the sources of funding. The large blue segment, which starts at 12 o'clock and ends at around 5:30, that's the regional revenues that have been allocated. And if you hover over that, or in fact, if you hover over many parts, you can actually see more information on the dashboard that actually tells you to the dollar how much money is being allocated. And then you kind of go around that, and there's various other funding sources: federal, state, local, other MBTA funds, private, and finally, kind of at the top left-hand side, between say 11 p.m. and midnight, is a pink area which shows the funding gap associated with the projects that MBTA is funding. So you can see for the projects that MBTA is funding, you can see how much MBTA has got in those projects, how much of other funding sources are on those projects, and how much of a funding gap remains for those projects. So if you think about the MBTA piece as being 3.1 billion, then probably that's enabling about $7 billion worth of projects, which is mostly funded, but there's a little bit that isn't funded. Next slide, please. Actually, no, before you do that, just one more thing. In the blue box to the right and in the 5 blue boxes across the top of the screen, there are 5 filters. You can click on each of those, get a drop-down menu, and you can select various things. So what you see in those 5 drop-downs are funding status, project sponsor, project location, corridor segment, which is a little bit jargony, but that's kind of a way that we locate projects within transaction, and then transportation mode. So if you go to the next slide. So I'm going to show you the map, and that summary information is the top part of the dashboard. The lower part of the dashboard, if you scroll down when you're online, this is what you'll see. This is a version that it is showing charts, and you see charts for project status, transportation mode, and MBTA funding status. A ton of information in here. It's all color-coded. Again, you can hover over any of those circles and see the actual numbers. For the one on the left and the one in the middle, there's an option which defaults here to count, which basically tells you how many projects in each category. And to the right of that, shown here in white, is funding. And if you click on funding, you'll see the dollars associated with each of those aspects. So that is also quite a useful feature. The project mode, the transportation modes that we use, bus, intersection, interchange, rail, transportation technology, roadway, bike and pedestrian only, and park and ride. On the right-hand side circle, the funding status, this is the one minor enhancement since we last gave you a presentation on the dashboard. It used to be just MBTA funds spent and remaining MBTA funds appropriated. But we've now added an extra category that says funds not appropriated yet. These are funds in previous programs for future revenue years where the revenue is not yet available, so therefore we cannot appropriate it yet. But that gives you the complete picture of the 3.1 billion that has been allocated.
Just a really quick question.
Yes,
Where are the reserve funds? In that?
they're not
circle?
shown.
They're not shown at all. Okay.
They're not associated with a specific project, so they wouldn't fit into the data structure. But yeah, I think there's a substantial amount of reserve fund
Right.
as well, but that's not included. These are the funds that are allocated to projects. So this is also the bottom half of the dashboard. Yes, we have two halves at the bottom, and basically, you can see up towards the kind of the top left-hand corner, you can click charts, which is what the previous slide was, but you can also click tabular, which is what you're seeing here. And this basically lists all the projects that are associated with the filters that have been selected at the top of the home page, the 5 filters. If you don't select any of them, you get all 122 projects. And so this is the first page of the 122 projects. Down the left-hand side, you can see blue boxes. If you click on those, you see details of the projects. You see the same information as if you click the icon on the map. And then next to that, we have columns for the title of the project, the sponsor/jurisdiction, the total cost of the project, the location of the project, the number of transaction project segments, which is kind of like a bit kind of weird, really. That's really just for us. There are 1, 2, or 3 of those for each project. The approved MBTA amount, the primary mode, the current status, and the anticipated completion date. You can see that for every project, and for every one of those categories, you can click it, and it will sort that table based on what you've clicked. So you can, and then it will sort it alphabetically from A to Z or from Z to A, and numerically from lowest to highest, highest to lowest. So if you wanted to see the project with the lowest amount of MBTA funding on it, or the highest amount, you can do that. And if the highest amount is 330 million for the Richmond Highway BRT project, the lowest is the BRE project. But it's all in there to the dollar. So that's a pretty useful feature. We're pretty excited to be able to do that. Next slide. So it's my final slide. So that's kind of really where we are. Yeah, in response to a lot of interest, we do want to hopefully, subject to funding approval, go ahead with some planned dashboard enhancements. A couple are noted here. There's nothing on the dashboard about 30% projects, the local distribution fund projects. There is nonetheless a substantial amount of money associated with the 30% projects. We do report that through the JCTA report each November. That's the only source really where you can get information in detail on the 30% projects. There's also some information summarized in our annual report, separate to the JCTA annual report. But what we're going to do is bring that onto the dashboard. So dashboard is all about the regional projects. But we want to bring kind of equivalent level data onto the dashboard about the 30% projects as well. We give them some sample metrics that we'd like to include, but basically anything you can see for a regional project, we want to be able to see the equivalent for a 30% funded project. We also want to be able to drill down into more detail about the individual projects, both 70% and 30%. To talk about the infrastructure that is actually being funded by those projects. So the only way you can do that right now is to read the project description for each of the 122 projects and more than 300 local funded projects when they get on there as well. We think we need something a bit more sophisticated than that. Lane miles by mode is the obvious starting point for us, but there are a lot of other things we can put on there as well. And then you can do all sorts of searching based on these metrics too. So that's in the future. It's not there now, but that's where we want to take the dashboard. That's all I have.
Thanks a lot, Keith. Much appreciated. Any questions, comments? All right. Well, thanks a lot. Huge amount of work and a lot of transparency for the public. So thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
So we move on to action items. First item, approval of Prince William County's construct interchange Prince William Parkway and Silver Road SPA 2018-039-1.
Mr. Chair, this project was adopted as part of the FY 18 to 2023 6-year program. It received the FY 23 appropriation approval in April of last year for an amount of 1.9 million. And the county has brought forward the SPA so that we can initiate payment for the work on this project.
Well, I think that may be important. I entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to move the authority approval of the proposed standard project agreement 2018-039-1, Prince William County, in accordance with MDAT's approved project description sheet as appended on the standard project agreement, and authorize the chief executive officer to sign on behalf of the authorities.
I won't ask you to repeat that. Yeah, there's a second. There's a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
abstentions. Item passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda. Very nice. Very nice. Aye. Approval of principal.
She's replacing me on the MVTA.
All right. Item number 7, Ms. Backman.
Mr. Chairman, again, another SPA approval for Prince William County. This is for their Summit School Road extension and Telegraph Road widening. This project was approved for funding in your FY 2020 to 25 6-year program, received appropriation for FY 2023 for an amount of $24 million.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'd like to move the authority approval of the proposed standard project agreement 2020-0-2. In accordance with MDAT's approved project description sheet as appended to the standard project agreement, and authorize the chief executive officer to sign on behalf of the authority.
Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, signify by saying aye.
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 Abstention? All right, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, item number 8.
So, Mr. Chairman, Loudoun County is requesting authority endorsement for their raised application grant for where they are anticipate constructing a raised separated overpass for bicyclists and pedestrians where the WO&D trail crosses Sterling Boulevard. And this is consistent with other letters of endorsement. And it is in the code that we try to advocate for our localities to receive federal funds.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Senator Briscoe. Second. Supervisor Alcorn, second. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Abstention? That item passes unanimously. Thanks very much. Next item on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, Arlington County is requesting endorsement of their raised grant application where Arlington is seeking funding for the Arlington Memorial Trail. Well, they will construct a 10-foot wide pedestrian and bicycle trail on the west side of Richmond Highway, connecting Memorial Avenue with Columbia Highway.
Right. Is there a motion?
Yes, I move approval of endorsement for the race track for Arlington County.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Any comments? I see that it also connects to the Ojima Memorial. I see that was in something, there was a reference to the Ojima Memorial in there somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, any comments on this? Okay, there being none, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Item passes unanimously. Next item.
So, Mr. Chairman, another request for endorsement for a raised grant application for the city of Manassas Park. The city of Manassas Park is pursuing raised grant funding to implement complete street recommendations in their Park Central. And a part of this will be looking at management tactics, mid-blocking, crossing treatments, any assistance to help reduce crashes.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion?
I move authority approval of the letter of endorsement for City of Manassas Parks Rebuilding American Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity application.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there a second? Thank you, Mayor. Okay, the motion is made and seconded. Any discussion, any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Item passes unanimously. Next item.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is a blue sheeted item because it was not in the packet that was distributed to you last week. But the Virginia Economic Development Partnership has enlisted the help of Plus PR on an effort to attract the FBI headquarters to Springfield, Virginia. And part of this effort is to provide the FBI and General Service Administration with letters of support from jurisdictions and agencies. MBTA was contacted by Fairfax County to provide a letter of support. And I will note that we have approximately $63 million invested in the Springfield, Virginia area. And again, barring no issue, we would like to sign off on this letter of support.
Is there any motion? Yes.
Move the authority approve the letter of support for the relocation of the Federal Bureau of Investigation headquarters to Springfield, Virginia. Second.
Supervisor Harity, thank you very much. Any questions or comments? I did have one question. This doesn't preclude any other jurisdiction coming forward if they wanted to.
It's not, as far as I know, it does not.
Thanks a lot. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Item passes unanimously. Thanks very much. So we have a couple committee reports. One of sort of passing interest, of course, the Governance and Personnel Committee report. Who wants to make that?
I will ask Ms. Baynard if she's able, she was losing her voice earlier, to just go over some of the brief items that we discussed at GPC.
Thank you, Ms. Bachman. Mr. Chairman, this is Tracy Baynard. I am losing my voice. So I'm just going to go over a couple of items that were in the budgets that were adopted by the House and Senate today that I think just make sure we're keeping an eye on them. One, we seem to have a trend in Virginia where we are earmarking unobligated general funds for major projects. This started in 21-22 for the so-called I-64 GAP project, which has secured $470 million in general fund money. This year, the discussion is about I-81 corridor projects. The House budget has designated $150 million in FY 2024. The Senate would do $250 million in 2024 out of a contingency fund. It is the number 4 priority project there. There is also funding being dedicated to planning and construction of a new inland port in the Mount Rogers planning district. That's a result of a study. So it's just sort of interesting that we are back to earmarking significant amounts of general fund money, mostly again out of unobligated revenues at the end of a fiscal year for projects. So something as a region, we just need to keep our eye on and have some thinking about. Also in the Senate budget is language that I hope will survive conference that requires the Commonwealth Transportation Board to annually report back to the General Assembly the short-term, midterm, and long-term impacts of the loss of the 0.5% of the gross sales and use tax. As you recall, there was a backfill related to local government, and that is great, but there was no backfill for transportation. The bill that I think the bill that has gotten a lot of discussion in the General Assembly is the recapitalization and use of the Transportation Partnership Opportunity Fund, TPOF. This is an existing fund in code that hasn't been used for many years. Its purpose is to provide flexible funding, in this case, outside of smart scale, to assist in transportation infrastructure for economic development. I will say that the General Assembly, in a bipartisan effort, understands the need for the flexible money, but has greatly amended the bill as introduced by the administration. Both the House and Senate bill are different, and so they'll have to be reconciled. But what you have is a return of oversight of the Commonwealth Transportation Board. Commonwealth Transportation Board will once again have to write rules and guidelines. There is additional reporting back to the General Assembly key committees. And while it's treated differently, both of the bills require a report back or sign off from the Major Economic Investment MEI Commission. The funding is also different. The introduced budget would have allocated over the biennium $200 million of the Commonwealth Transportation Fund and $100 million out of the unobligated funds of the Virginia Transportation Infrastructure Bank. The House did not change that. The Senate kept the VTIB, the Infrastructure Bank funding, but also reduced the funding coming out of the Commonwealth Transportation Fund to a one-time $100 million. The General Assembly's been very clear to the administration that funding going into TPOF needs to be like any other appropriation, and we'll go through the budget and then through General Assembly analysis. I think that's all I have there. So just a very quick report on those key things out of the budget, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Tracy, thanks very much for all your work there. Does anybody have any questions for Tracy? Let me ask Senator Boysko. Senator, is there anything you'd like to share with us at all? Any comments on anything?
I think, I just want you to know that we are committed to preserving our funding that we have. There was a bill that came before the Transportation Committee that I serve on that questioned whether or not, I had a question of whether or not it was going to eat into our funds in Northern Virginia. I checked with Monica and Tracy while the committee hearing was going on. They confirmed to me that everything was neutral for us. And so I just appreciate the dialogue and the ability to check in with folks to make sure that we are preserving the funding as much as possible. So thanks for the opportunity to check in with you all. And I miss you.
Oh, that's so nice. No, more to the point, thank you very much. You're one of the hardest working people I know, and I want to thank you for all that you've been able to do for our region and are doing it. So much appreciated. Do we have any other of our state representatives on? I didn't know. Right. Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I could just add one thing about the Inland Port project, it's not for expanding Front Royal, it's for building one down in Southwest, which kind of completes the triangle of the Virginia Port down in the Hampton Roads area, the barge service in Richmond, the Front Royal facility, and then this would be down around Abington or Bristol. So it's important for the freight traffic movement that the port serves all the way to the Midwest and even beyond. So that's actually a good project.
Yeah, Mr. Bedell, thank you for that. I clarify that this is really important for, again, the ongoing work Virginia has been doing for, a couple of decades now to move freight off of trucks on highways and onto rail. And it's just the more we do that, the safer and the better our interstates will be. So there's been quite of an interesting competition in Southwest about where an inland port would go, but there was a very extensive study with all stakeholders, and the Mount Rogers Planning District was identified as the place to put it so that it would be most effective.
And Tracy, I've known you forever. Please call me Anthony.
Thank you all so much. I see that Jennifer DeBrule is on. I know she's worked extraordinarily hard for transit generally, and especially in our region. So Jennifer, did you have any comments you wanted to make about the almost the situation in Richmond, the session in Richmond?
Yeah, we had a piece of legislation that was sponsored by the administration, House Bill 1496 and Senate Bill 1079, that would basically set aside a portion of the Commonwealth Mass Transit Fund to provide dedicated funding for Virginia Railway Express. And we set that up in a way, we've been running VRE funding through a bus formula for the past 5 years since we changed the performance-based formula. And we've just come to the point where it just doesn't work. And so I'm grateful that the administration supported us on this proposal, the partnership that we've had with the Northern Virginia localities, VRE, NVTC, NVTA, WMATA, everybody. We worked really hard together to come up with a nonpartisan legislative approach, and it passed both houses prior to crossover unanimously without a single no vote. And so it's crossed over now. The House version was heard in Senate Finance earlier this week. Expect the Senate version to be heard in House Transportation next week. So that is well on its way to being done. And I just, like was said earlier, I'm just so grateful that we've got so many good partners in Northern Virginia to work with, that we can solve problems by working together. And so it's been a lot of work this session, but glad that that one is well on its way to being done. And again, just thank you guys for everything you do.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any other questions or comments about the legislative session? Ms. Backman, are there any letters that we need to send down or any policy positions we need to discuss? Or?
Mr. Chairman, I think we're in a good place, and Ms. Boehner has communicated our position where appropriate.
Great. I like being in a good place. Thank you for that. Any other questions on this one? Thanks very much. There was a finance committee meeting tonight, but do we have anything to report tonight or not? No.
We report out next.
Right. It's a very busy committee, so look forward to a lot of finance committee work next week. Chief Executive Officer's report, Ms. Backman.
So, Mr. Chairman, my report is in the packet, but there are two things that I would like to draw your attention to. The 8th annual Northern Virginia Transportation Roundtable is scheduled for Wednesday, March 22nd. We did send an email out to authority members. If you would like to attend, please let us know and RSVP early, because we actually go live tomorrow for opening it up for everyone to RSVP. We have heard from about 7 of you, but for those we have not heard from, if you would like to attend, please let us know so we could make sure that we have that space available for you. The roundtable event will be held across the street at the Northern Virginia Realtors Association building. This room was booked. The other thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the Smart Skills Survey. So on January 12th, Secretary Miller sent a letter and a survey link regarding Smart Scale to collect feedback on how the process of Smart Scale can be improved. We've had conversations with the RJAC. What I would like to do is submit comments from a regional perspective. So we did ask the RJAC if you have any comments that you would like for us to share on your behalf, let us know. This does not preclude any locality or agency from submitting their own comments, because sometimes there are just project level details that each locality or agency would like to submit. But from a regional perspective, there's some things that I hear frequently regarding Smart Scale, and we noted that we would share those comments. And also next week, I think we're meeting with you, Ms. Hines and Mr. Kasperwitz, to talk about Smart Scale in round 5.
Monica, could I offer a little bit of information I got yesterday? So the administration is committed to kind of re-examining Smart Scale. And the survey is an opening information gathering. We were told that there will be briefings at each of our CTV meetings on what they're hearing and what they're thinking, except for May, when we have to do the 6-year plan. So it'll be focused May, we won't hear it in May. But we have to finish up by October, whatever our review is. And so I will say, you know, there's going to be a lot of work between now and then to understand what's working and what's not working. The Smart Scale numbers are out for round 5. Northern Virginia got 8% of the money. It's the lowest we've ever seen. There wasn't as much money. There was a lot, and something for us to think about. One of the steps in the allocation of money. So first they do jurisdictions, and then they do MPOs and PDCs. And our region has not submitted. MBTA, MBTC, the various bus agencies are all, we just have never done it. We haven't had a need to. But this year, more than half of the money in what's called the high priority pot went to MPOs and PDCs. And so that's a big reason why we got a small amount. And the high priority money that was left, that's been allocated, most of it went to the I-64 gap. and one other project in Stanton. There's about $90 million left, and, you know, we're thinking about what the play would be to try to convince my colleagues to at least use a bit of it to fund another project in our region. But everybody's going to be thinking about that. So I just wanted to let you all know, I mean, this is the big lift here every 2 years for those of us who are on CTV. But just look at what's working and what's not, and what changes, if any. I mean, we evaluated after every round. This is more fundamental. They're kind of going in and taking a more, it's not going to be about the edges, potentially. So stay tuned.
So maybe in future meetings, if we could.
Yeah, you know, the problem, so Dave, the problem is this meeting is always at least a week, if not 2 weeks before I go to CTV. So I would be telling you something that was a week or 2 or 3 old, depending on the timing. I'm happy to do that, or to give Monica a little update that could go out after our meetings. You know, and send you the link to the PowerPoint that I'm sure they'll be doing some kind of PowerPoint presentation. I'll do, you know, whatever you want, but this meeting, it might not be what I told you is hot off the press yesterday. So that's why I felt it was worth sharing.
Okay, thanks very much. Thanks for all that work. Huge. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question in regards to the survey and smart scale. Now, when you, I guess, fund the grants, and I don't know if this is appropriate to put in there, do you all still hold on to the money until they do the projects and kind of
Yes.
invest it as well?
Smart,
Or what do you do? Yeah.
Smart Scale funds projects in years 5 and 6 of our 6-year plan. And the purpose, Smart Scale tries to fund the whole cost that you asked for, so that the project is considered fully funded. We're kind of the last dollars in. So you're putting on the table everything you're leveraging. And honestly, I know META is a reimbursement basis. I can't remember whether Smart Scale is or not. I think it is. But John, do you?
Yeah.
It is reimbursement.
Reimbursement.
Yeah.
But when they get approved for the project, y'all get the money in y'all budget that year, like MBTA?
It's in year 5 and 6.
Okay.
So, you know, MBTA's 5 and 6 is also a projection of revenue. So ours is too.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Anyone, anything else you'd like to know? Next item on the agenda, we did the Chief Executive Officer's report. Thank you. Chair's comments, none. Do we need a closed session?
Yeah.
No need for a closed session. Anyone have anything else to number out? Okay, well, thank you very much, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Aye. Anyone opposed? Extension. Thank you.